Hi guys, welcome to today's episode. This is episode 6 and we'll be talking about living light. I'm excited for you to listen into this conversation. Thank you for the love that you've been giving. We are already past half the season and I'm so excited. I hope you've been learning something and that you are maximizing it. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Wendy Loyce. I've been tasked to say what I do and I couldn't put a finger. I wear multiple hats, but I'm a communications personnel. I am a podcaster. I call myself the mic girl. I speak a lot and that is why my good friend Shalome called me here to have a good conversation with her on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to having a very good time. So sometimes the influence around you can either make you be a winner or a loser. Because when you get probably into this circle, some things are like, hey, you come and you're like, hey, this guy is pretty rude. This guy is a batterer. I don't like their way of living. I don't subscribe to their norms. But every time you compromise and you're there with them, and it got to a place where like even the people close to me would say, Wendy, you're such a brilliant girl. But there's just something about this alcohol.
But you didn't see it at that point.
I could see it. And it's what you're saying. You can actually see another 2 days of this pressure I'm spiraling into. And I even got help and I went into therapy and I came out and I'm like, no, it's just that day, it's just 2 days. But I realized these patterns were taking me back to the trenches. And tell yourself, at what point did God really deny me? What point did life didn't work out? Probably you are redirected. You understand?
Yeah.
For me, rejection is redirection.
Right.
It doesn't mean that that's the end of the road. Thank you so much for having me.
Karibu sana to the Make It
It's
Easy.
been long overdue for me to be here.
How many months now?
I think close to a year.
Close to a year.
Close to a year.
But the Lord's timing is the best
Kabisa,
timing.
kabisa.
So today's conversation will be living light. Yeah? And before we start, I want us to do some few icebreaker questions, and then we'll get right into it. Are you ready?
I've been anxious about the questions, but let's see.
They're not so hard. They're not so
Okay.
hard. So number 1, what is that one thing that you can count on to make your day better no matter what?
Music.
Music?
Music.
Ah.
Music. Any day, all day music.
Music.
I'm in a bad mood. Music gets me going.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, food, like maybe a snack.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Snacks.
Wow.
I'm such a snack lover. So it will be snack. And then the second one, if you could talk to your younger self and advise her on how to go through life's challenges gracefully. Remember, our conversation is about living light.
Yeah.
So if you could advise your younger self on how to go through life's challenges gracefully, what will you tell her?
My younger self, I'm just looking at her and I'm like, wow, it's gonna be okay. These too shall pass. Your high moments, those too shall pass. So you need to keep pushing. Your bad days, these too shall pass. It's
too
gonna
shall
be
pass.
okay. I would tell her, carry that at the core of your existence. These too shall pass. Good or bad, these
It shall
too shall
pass.
pass. Yeah.
I think for me, I will tell her it gets way better. Like it gets better. It gets better. Yeah.
That's nice.
All right. Number 3. If you could describe grace as a food, as a type of food, what will it be? If you thought of grace as a type of
Can
food.
it be a fruit?
Yes, it can be a fruit.
I would give it watermelon.
Watermelon. I also love watermelon.
Yeah,
I think for people it will be watermelon.
yeah. Because let me tell you, grace, watermelon, if you're thirsty, it will quench your thirst, right? If you have enough portion, it will fill you up. It has the nutritional value of it. It's easily accessible. It's not very costly. So watermelon does
A
it
10
for me.
PowerPoint of why watermelon should be your best friend. Actually, I have a friend of mine
Yeah.
who does not eat watermelons, and I still don't understand them up to date.
Really?
They don't like
An
watermelon.
allergy or something?
No, they don't just like the taste that it's too watery.
Okay. There are people who actually even don't like water.
How?
Yeah, the taste of water. Someone says the taste of water just that is not pleasant to them. Yeah.
Oh, those are weird people we have. Second last, if life's challenges were a video game, what level do you think you are at right now? If let's say from a scale of 1 to 20.
Life's challenges, 1 to 20. What I've experienced or where I am at right now?
Where you are at right now.
I see what you're saying, like how I have progressed.
Yeah.
I would give it a 16 out of 20.
A 16?
Yeah.
I think I'd give it 17 or maybe 16.5.
Yeah, because I think I've really grown through the ropes. I'm leaving room for the unknown, right? For example, looking at seasons like of marriage, being a mom, those will come with its fair share of challenges.
Yeah.
But I think I've grown the tenacity and the skin to take it through. So this 3% is for, I don't know how it can work around, but I think I've really grown through the ropes to grow tenacity. Yeah.
That's great, that's great. Lastly, if you had a Grace Living survival kit, what will be contained in that? Like the 3 things that will be your Grace Living survival kit. These are the things that you need for you to like walk easily as you grace yourself.
Okay. Prayer would be the first one. Music would be the second one. My mom would be the third one. With that, I'm good to go.
I think for me will be food. Well, not in that order. But I think my family and friends, the Bible, and I think food. Yeah, those give me a lot of comfort. That gives me a lot of comfort.
That's nice.
Yeah, and we're done.
That wasn't so bad, actually. That wasn't bad.
I don't know why you were so... You're so anxious of these questions.
Some questions can really corner you to a lot of...
like, cut, Shalom. Yeah, not answering
that was good. That was good.
Simple, right? So let's get right into it. Our conversation today is about living light and giving yourself grace as you walk through life's challenges. So what do you understand by the term living light?
Living light is being free of burden. You know, so many of us journey through life with a lot of weight, a lot of burden. And the bigger scope of that contains so many things: unforgiveness, guilt, jealousy, from emotions to the physical bit of it, you know, to the faith bit of it. So living light is letting go of all these things and having an attitude of acceptance.
So it means these things can still exist, but primarily it looks like you have does it look like you have blocked, you know, the doubts, the uncertainties, the fears, or can you still coexist with, you know, the fears and the doubts while still living light?
I love how you said it. Some of these attributes can coexist. You understand? Like an emotion like fear, it's an emotion that whether we like it or not, we will experience it. But how far you allow it to manifest in your life is what is the power that you have. Let me say that again. Some emotions and attributes like fear will be there, but how much you allow them to manifest in your life is the power that you have.
So how does it look like you are walking through a season of uncertainty and there's this fear? How do you make them coexist? Like, fear is here, I'm walking through this season in my life that I feel so unsure, so to speak. How do I, you know, walk through it still being fearful but, you know, soldiering on? How do you do it?
Great. Let me give you a personal experience. I think last year I went through so many transitions in life, Shalom, and I was just like, I'm not really sure, you know, from love to finances to career. But the one thing that kept me grounded was journaling. And journaling gave me the attitude of gratitude. Every day when I wake up in the morning, before the fear clouds in of, oh my God, how is it gonna be? You know, next month, are we really gonna make the pay cut? Are we gonna make the paycheck? You start by being very grateful. I'm grateful for life. You know, I am grateful that at least I have the chance to keep going. I am grateful for good health. I am grateful that at least I have a place to be. And when you list down the list of gratitude, there's a way it works in your system that you're able to soldier on. So yes, you can have fragments of fear that they can pass by your memory, but you have power over it to say, I will not be shaken. And number two, I know we both are believers. If you have faith in you and you have comfort that the Lord shall provide, right? That gives you peace and comfort. But number one is attitude of gratitude, that daddy, you know what? I might not be seeing how this will manifest. I might not be seeing the end from the beginning, and this gives me fear, but I choose. I choose to remain grateful, and I choose to walk in faith.
I love what you've said about gratitude, and I think it's something I have been intentionally doing as of last year. So the beginning of 2024, I started writing down. I got this from a certain content creator. By the end of every week, I write down the things that I'm grateful for. Like, if it's Monday, something happened and I was grateful for, on Sunday, I'll sit down, write them down. So last year, towards the end of the year, I sat down, opened this can of many sticky notes. How many were they? Like, so many. All the weeks, tangu January up to December. And it was so, it's very affirming to see that, I feel like I'm not really there where I wanted to be, but just to look at how God really came through for me in January, in February. This is something that right now looks very, very small, looks like something, just a kawaida thing, but God actually carried you, and the art of just staying grateful, I think, gives you hope that, if God really took me through this season, I think he'll still be able to take me through this season that I'm trusting God for. So I think even for you, one thing that I'll urge you is that to always be grateful to God for and just keep on, it can be journaling, it can be writing them down, or just noting them down, because, human beings, we tend to forget. But I think the art of just reminding yourself that, if God did this for me at this time, I think this is something that, even these two, he shall do it for me.
And let me just add something to that. From the beginning of this year, I've been doing a lot of analogies in situations in my life and those around me. And when you were talking, I was looking at something I usually tell my people. I have a follower. My brother is 7 years, right? And I look at that kid, such a difference. And I look at that kid and how he operates in his life. He knows he has to go to school. He knows he has to eat. He knows he has to sleep. But he doesn't understand the details of how the provision is done. He has faith in his mom. He has faith in his sister, right? That this one's primarily being my guardians. I'll go home, I'll eat, I'll sleep tomorrow, I'll go to school. This kid hasn't clouded himself with fear and worry and
that's
uncertainty.
The beauty of being a young person. Like
Thank you.
Being a child.
So do this to yourself. If your Father in heaven loves you much more than how my mother loves my brother, he will surely provide. And Shalom, that changes everything for you. And that changed it for me. You understand? If he promises that he can, who am I to doubt? And then if you sit down just the way you're saying, noting them down and having gratitude, and tell yourself, at what point did God really deny me? What point did life didn't work out? Probably you are redirected. You understand? For me, rejection is redirection.
Right.
It doesn't mean that that's the end of the road. So for us to come this far, this collaboration would have happened maybe 6 months ago. It would not have been impactful as how I know this episode is gonna be. So being gracious and having the attitude of gratitude as you go.
And I think that's one thing that God always knows the time that you need. Sometimes you feel like, God, I need it right now. But God is saying, if I bring this thing to you right now, it will probably destroy you or will not be a good steward of it. So it's just being in sync with what God is saying about you, or what God wants you to do in a particular season. So how do you kind of reset when you feel like life is moving so fast and it's becoming so overwhelming? How do you get to ground yourself and find like an anchor to help you stand in within through life's storms?
Okay. For me, like for you, for me personally, I think especially quarter life, mid-20s had a dance on me. Like if you follow me on social media, I try and share as much as possible because I believe in building a community.
You do, and if you don't follow Wendy, please.
We'll give you the social media.
We'll give you the handles.
So I have learned to build a community that affirms me and holds me grounded. Journaling for sure is number one. And I used to hear these things so many times, oh, journal, but I was like, you know, for what value is it to write down? Until I started practicing that. You know, bad day, I write my emotions and I'm like, today I'm feeling angry.
And it actually makes you realize, anyway, sometimes you feel so angry and unashanga umejambo na.
Exactly.
But then when you get read down, you're like, oh, this thing happened to me in the morning.
Yeah. So you write down your emotions, and just the way you're saying it, if it's at the end of the week or the beginning of the weekend, you go back and look at it, you're like, oh, I was able to handle this in this way. It builds the core of who you are. And number two, just having a support system for me. And I'm grateful really for the support I get from my mom. She's always like a call away. I'm not sure how this is happening. I'm not sure. Because let me tell you, in your seasons of imbalance, the people who talk to your ear have so much influence. Shalom, when you're going through distress, when school is not working or your relationship is not working, and that's the time the devil comes in. He comes in to steal and instill fear, right? That's how you get very many people go into alcoholism, into drugs, into sex. And these are things that happen to us. So I have learned to ground myself on that, and also just having a support system that can be a voice of reason when I'm not able to see clearly for myself. And it's been good.
I love what you've said about support system, because I think that is something that most people tend to, that fact, they tend to ignore it because they feel like, see, this is my journey, let me do it. I can be a one-man show. What is it called?
One-man band.
One-man band. And I think that's just a lie from the enemy, that you can do this alone. Because the minute you stay in isolation, he gets to feel this thoughts and fears in you, and you feel like, hey, anyway, I don't think I can do it. So this is also an important thing for you to note down, that community is very important. And sometimes it can be your friends, it can be your family, it can be, you know, people that you just meet along the way. The Lord actually stations people who will be of help to you in different seasons of your life. So it's up to you to discern, God, who is this person that you want to help me in this particular season of my life? Do you think that people, like, you can think at the top of your mind that there are some times that you feel like, hey, and you are drowning, and friends or family actually came
for sure.
Okay,
let me put it this way. And I was talking somewhere, I think a week ago, and I was telling them, this year, when I began this year, right, I did the 1 month period of fasting and prayer. And the Lord weighed it very heavily in my heart to let go of some people, some habits, and some things. Was it easy? No, it was not, right? But I decided to stay in obedience. And I have seen a change. So sometimes the influence around you can either make you be a winner or a loser. Because when you get probably into this circle, some things are like, hey, you come and like, hey, this guy is pretty rude. This guy is a batterer. I don't like their way of living. I don't subscribe to their norms. But every time you compromise and you're there with them, slowly by slowly, before you know it, you're also picking up those funny characters, you know. So that becomes your norm. And on the flip side of it, if you have sound voice of reason who can support you and cheer you on, you know what they do for you? Even when you yourself, you cannot see the vision. You're like, May, you're such a good podcaster, keep going. Even when you are not seeing the numbers, it's the people around you who should say, this thing is gonna work out. Just keep going. You're sleeping, able wake up and go, you know. So the people around you, the space around you can either make you or break you. There is no doubt about that, for sure.
The people, I love that. The people around you, because sometimes in this, especially when you are a young person and you're trying to build something, sometimes it feels very weird for other people, and they're like, girl, you're just a young person. See, slow down. And I think what keeps me going some of the times when I feel like, guys, is this even worth doing? You guys are not even subscribing. Subscribing. And I feel like, guys, see, I just stop. Why am I doing this? And I think, not that I rely on the words, the affirmation from my friends, but also knowing the kind of impact that the conversations I'm having, the kind of impact that it's bringing. So I think also getting to understand that even in your journey of building, there are some tangible or intangible impacts that get to happen in the lives of people. There's a time that someone DM'd me and they're like, I watched this episode on your podcast and I was so encouraged. I was going through this and I'm like, guy, this is someone I don't even know. And I'm wondering, God, kumbe, you can use me who is feeling very, I feel I doubt myself and I feel like I'm not worth this platform. But God just needs someone who is ready and available to be used. And I think that is a very, very important thing, yeah?
Let me tell you, and I mean, for me, we can stick there for so long. Even with your finances, let me tell you, your prosperity in life is dependent on the people around you. Like for me, the word for this year is consistency, and I'm being consistent even with the people around me. Let me tell you, for a fact, I had two groups of friends. I had a group of friends who, by the way, when we're always together, like, it's now that I'm even looking back and I'm like, what are these conversations we used to have? It's who did what, whose boyfriend went where. There was never financial investment. And the truth is, like, I was almost always broke. Because when money comes in, you have not designated what and where it should go. And by the way, even as young as you are right now, you need to, like, start being very careful about your monies. Yeah, and this world is very cruel to poor people.
Very true.
So we never had conversations around investments. Tulijua hata investments ni nini. Tunaona tu ingine tuko like, achana kina Shalom, they'll just calm down, you understand? But when I decided to let go of that, in a very short span, I've been able to see I'm now being more accountable with, like, for me, finances have really turned, and it's because this other space, guys are like, this 500 bob in the next 10 years, how much will it be? Sour. So every month we are putting aside 500 or X amount, and it brings growth or distraction to you. So you guys, what you listen to, who you walk around will have a great impact on the results of who you truly will be.
And even it may not show like right now, but look at yourself in the next 5 or 10 years.
It manifests.
It really manifests, yeah. Is there any particular habit or mindset shift that kind of makes you feel lighter when you're feeling a bit, overwhelmed, and you feel like you can share to our listeners today?
The biggest that comes top of mind is attitude of gratitude, for sure. When I feel like I'm in doubt, when I feel like I'm not really sure how things are gonna pan out, when I cannot see the end from where I stand, I choose to remain grounded in the far that I have come, right? And just believing that there is God's purpose for my life is way bigger than
what you imagine.
Yeah. It's way bigger than what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing. So just being grateful for those small moments makes me shadow through that small phases of fear and uncertainty. And let me tell you something, we are not telling you not to experience fear and uncertainty. People say, podcasters come here and just tell us you can't. These things are there.
They are there.
These emotions are there. We are human. Blood and flesh at the end of the day. But the only thing we're encouraging you is you have the power to choose how this manifestation happens in your life. You can choose to honestly always be fearful. And you can only achieve too much with such an attitude. But you can choose to, by the way, today I'm not really sure how it's going to be, but you know what? I'm going to show up all the same. What's the worst that's going to happen?
I think that's one of the mantras I tend to live by. Like, what's the worst? What's the worst? Yeah.
We don't know what this collaboration can bring. What's the worst? Just show up. Come for the podcast. Then let's see how it pans out. So we are, you wake up and you're grateful and you're like, we are grateful for these beginnings. We are grateful for these opportunities, and then put in the work. So fear will be there, uncertainty will be there, but you have the power to control the manifestation it has in your life.
And I love what you've said, that yes, you pray to God, but you actually go there and do the work. Don't just pray and, okay, God, nimekuachia. Pray, there's your part to play. You also have a part to play. As Christians, I think we tend to, make it look like we just lazy around and God to do all the work. Sometimes God calls us to go to those places, go in that office, go in that room, make that phone call, But as long as you have told God and as long as God is with you, then I think that's all you need, right?
Yeah.
There's this phrase that, we should always be in the grind, always, working. But how do I know when it's time for me to stop and actually, take a break or just try and re-strategize? Because most people get so focused in, let's do it. You find someone even gets sick. There's a lot of, mental and instability. So how do you know when it's time for me to step back and at least gain momentum? Is there like an indicator?
There is. And let me start by saying this. When God guides your conscience, let your conscience guide you. Be so much in sync with yourself. Today, before we started the podcast, Shalom was asking me, so Wendy, how do you do all these things? Because sometimes I do quite a lot. But I've gotten in sync with myself completely. Like, I am one. From my mind to my body to my spirit and I listen to my intuition. And I tell God, you know what, guide my conscience so that it can guide me.
Yeah.
There are very many of us that can please come and collaborate, but I'm like, no. And I listen to that voice of reason. And it's because I always feed it so well, I respect it, I understand it, so we are one. So your body will always speak to you when you're getting to a burnout, when you're getting to exhaustion, when that relationship is not for you, when that boss is not good enough for you, your conscience will tell you. And the Lord should be able to guide you. He always does. But some of us, we walk so much in flesh that we don't get to understand. Even if people who choose not to really incline in faith, even the universe, if that's what you choose to call it, the universe aligns you to your destiny helpers and destroyers. Let me tell you, for me in my early 20s, I've not been shy to jump through careers. Even this January, I just started a new position and I picked up a couple of roles. And when I was leaving my previous employer, Shalom, I was just like, is it gonna be okay? What will they think? Do I really need to go? But it kept on banging in my head, your time here is done. So some of the things you will realize is you will not be getting fulfillment of purpose.
You'll start feeling like, force.
Nafanya tu juu ya kufanya. You understand? Number 2, you're not seeing impact. You go to the office, you could be doing what you're required to do, your JD, you're executing, but it doesn't have impact. There is no growth. And then there is exhaustion. And when you're tired, take time and rest. By the way, if you're in the corporate space, if you're employed, the hard truth is you can only be as effective if you yourself you're effective. And number 2, you will be replaced, right? So take care of yourself so that you can work at your maximum best and then be inclined with yourself. Shalom, there's so much power in that, being able to listen to what your body wants, listen to what your brain is communicating with you, and if God guides your conscience, let your conscience guide you.
I love that. There's something you've said, and it has reminded me of what a mentor of mine says, is that if your absence makes no difference, then your presence was not necessary. So if people don't feel your absence, then I guess you being there in that place was not really important. So I think that is also an indicator that is this thing that I'm doing, is it just for the sake of kufanya? Am I just doing it because it's a norm? And I think that is, I love that point.
Yeah.
That is
wow.
a great,
wow.
great.
Yeah.
So we are almost winding up, guys. Hey, okay. So I think the last or second last question: how do you differentiate? How do you keep yourself from falling into the patterns of being stressed and overwhelmed as you are trying to live light, and you realize that anyway? I have noticed I've been more self-aware that it gets to this point and then I feel like, I've gone back to that deep. So how do you keep yourself from going back into that pit of being stressed and overwhelmed?
I like how you've asked the question and given the answer as well. Self-awareness.
Yeah.
Self-awareness. Let me be a bit vulnerable here with you and share with you. It's actually this year that I have now said, you know what, you know how you do resolutions and then mid-year you've gone back to, I used to drink. And Shalom, alcohol has taken away so much from me. Like so much from me. Opportunities, people. But I constantly was in denial that this thing is not good for me. And it got to a place where like even the people close to me would say, Wendy, you're such a brilliant girl. But there's just something about this alcohol.
But you didn't see it at that point.
I could see it. And it's what you're saying. You can actually see another 2 days of this pressure I'm spiraling into. And I even got help and I went into therapy and I came out and I'm like, no, it's just a day, it's just 2 days. But I realized these patterns were taking me back to the trenches. And let me tell you, I would go to church and pray. Oh God, you know what? Please, yes, you know, deliver me. But straight from the prayer to the party. And my mom's sister, and I hope she will watch this, when I was going to campus, she told me, Wendy, even the strongest in faith, as long as you're still around your triggers and your temptations, you are most likely to get burnt. And it's not like you're a bad person. Shalom, you're not a bad person.
Know your triggers.
Know your triggers.
Know your
Thank
triggers.
you. And I was coming there to self-awareness. And I got to a place too. And let me tell you, you know when you mentioned sometimes the timing of the Lord haina makosa, and sometimes you are just not prepared for that. This year started with a bang for me. And the Lord has and things are just opening up and manifesting. And Shalom, it's because in this short period I said, God, I'm taking out this alcohol. And you know, sometimes as a joke, I used to even voice it out because I speak a lot. And I used to tell people, man, say the day I'll stop this alcohol, I think I'm gonna go really far. So right now it's holding myself accountable to that to ensure I do not conform to the old patterns. Are the temptations there? Yes, they are. Right now when you look around, it's like drinking is a norm. You know, it's like, you understand? From home parties to funerals, to weddings, to birthdays, alcohol has been a manifestation. It has been normalized. So for me, as I take this one facet of life and look at it through other transverses like stress, it could be any kind of stress, life stresses, work stresses. You have to have triggers. And if you're self-aware, you know, by the way, I'm spiraling. By the way, if I continue like this, I'm gonna go deeper than what it is right now. So for me, it's being self-aware and change. Shalom, change is difficult.
Uncomfortable.
Change is uncomfortable. Change is painful, but change is necessary. Sometimes for you to really live into your purpose, you have to change some things. You have to change the people around you. You have to change the conversations you have. You have to change your way and lifestyle of living. Just the same way you say, you know, people who are believers, by then you want to do kazi kidogo sana.
Let the Lord do everything.
But I will fast and pray and then the rest. But let me tell you, you're called to work. You are called to put in the work. And it takes a lot of work. And some of us are gifted, some of us are talented, some of us are called for a higher purpose. But the surroundings that we have gotten comfortable in do not allow us to thrive.
To do it, yeah.
You're scared of disappointing people. You're scared of saying no. You're scared of looking different. You're scared of how, you know, I won't fit in. I won't look that cool, or I won't. But until you deliberately make that choice to make that change and live through the discomfort for you to push through to see the fruits, then therefore nothing will ever happen. And for me, that transformed my year, and it has transformed my vision and thinking absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So how do I travel light? It's just knowing your triggers and making sure I'm not eggshelling and
Around
walking
them.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because the chances that
Knowing
you will
you
slide
can
back.
know them, but you still stay around them.
Exactly.
Run.
Your triggers will honestly just burn you back.
Yeah.
So it's making a deliberate choice and change and going forth with it. It's
Wow.
a lot of hard work.
Hey,
It
Wendy,
is
that's
a lot of
heavy.
hard work.
Hey, know your triggers and don't just know them, walk past them,
Exactly.
leave them.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And
But
it's hard work.
It's hard.
It's hard work.
It's hard. But I think now that's where the grace of the Lord comes. You know, He helps us to walk through these things that He wants us to go into, yeah? So as you wind up, there's someone who's probably listening to us and they're like, okay, I love the conversation, but I feel stuck. I feel there's so many things I want to let go, but I don't know where to start. Talk to that person who is feeling maybe, you know, in doubt, in fear, and they don't know where to start. What could you tell them in a minute or two?
It's your full-time job to disappoint as many people as possible in order not to disappoint yourself. I heard that from Viola Davis. And let me tell you again, it is your full-time job to disappoint as many people as possible in order not to disappoint yourself. Shalom, sometimes we live in the cage of fear and doubt and shame and guilt and all this heaviness and burden in our hearts, but just because we are really careful of what other people will think about us.
Yeah, so we want to look so put together.
You start by choosing you. Choose yourself. Wake up today and deliberately. For me, I say, if you're watching this podcast, already you are empowered. And this power of the internet that you have, you can use it to build yourself. Right? So you're in the right track. Let me start by saying that you're in the right track. Keep building yourself, keep investing in yourself. Small steps will count. It doesn't have to be all right today, but if you consistently continue in this path, it will manifest in a couple of months, in a couple of years. So number one, keep choosing yourself. Number two, change. I don't know what it is you have to change. I don't know who it is you have to change. I don't know the places and habits you have to change, but it will call for you to make a difference and change your lifestyle, your habits, what you consume, the foods you eat. Let me tell you, since I think mid last year, I haven't actively really worked out. I leave my house, get into the car, get to the office. In the car, the other day I walked like for 10 minutes and I realized my body was now getting into discomfort and I'm sleeping a lot. Like when I get to the house, I'm so tired, I want to sleep. But when I looked back, I was like, Wendy, what are you eating? What are you feeding your body with? What are you exercising? So this, it's like if somebody bought you a brand new car, let's talk about a GLE. Praise the Lord, I receive it.
Praise the Lord.
I would make sure that car is serviced. I would make sure that car is washed. I would make sure that car is well maintained for it to give me good service. So what about your body? What about your brain? You don't have enough sunlight, you don't hydrate, you don't eat well, you don't get nutritional balance. Why wouldn't you be stressed? And some of these things, by the way, are not so far-fetched. You're on junk 24/7. Your brain is feeding on what you feed your stomach.
Yeah.
Your level of productivity. Get in touch with nature. Don't just stay in your room.
Stay locked up.
So choose yourself, get up. You have the power by the time you're listening to us. Make the adjustments and finally remain consistent. Small steps at a time. And actually, I'm talking to myself.
Yeah, because I'm like, you've said consistency is your word for the year.
Remain consistent. And it takes you to just do small things at a time. Small things at a time, but remain consistent to it. After 6 months, come and do a check. But over and above it all, reach out to Shalome, reach out to me. My name is Wendy Loyce, across all social media handles.
We'll leave you a link to the platforms here.
Yes. Let's journey together, have a community and a people who also want transformation as much as you want.
Yeah.
Because if you're the only one who wants to grow and have a difference in the space that you're in, it's as good as
it will make no difference.
It's done.
Make no difference.
No difference whatsoever.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, Wendy. Thank you so much for pouring your heart out, for your insights. I'm sure I have learned something, and I'm sure our guys back at home, they've also gotten something. And we are definitely bringing you back for a part 2. So
I am looking
stay
forward
ready,
to.
stay ready,
I am
stay
looking
ready.
forward to.
Thank you so much. That was our time for today. I hope you've learned something, and I hope you not just get to listen to it, but get to practicalize it in your everyday life, even as we learn to live light. That was our time for today. See you next Friday. Bye.
Baraka, thank you.